Well, it's time to read more from Zippers, and this will be chapter 21. Let's put the zipper glasses on for this occasion so we can get zipperfied. All right. Chapter 21. The court broke for recess, but not before Sonny grabbed Herschel's arm. And whispered to him how the females in his species always stuck together and were respected. They were matriarchal. Herschel only winked back, but it was not one of patronization. Everyone's rights were being thought of this day, this 2 days before Christmas Eve, 2018. Denny asked Sonny what he whispered to the lawyer, and Sonny answered with, "Only asked who his tailor was in case you guys ever decide to start dressing me up." I get the feeling this jury's getting antsy, wanting to get this over with. What with Christmas and all, said Pepper as she downed a 7-Up from the snack machine in the hall. "Well, we know for a fact that they're the ones who broke into your place now, Jacob," said Herschel, ignoring his cousin's concern. "I think I'm allowed one more witness, and I want him to be you. Are you up for it?" "I guess I have to, don't I?" answered Jacob. "And so what happens if we lose?" Herschel looked seriously at his new friend, who was holding his cat very close to his chest. "Well, it's really up to the judge, Jacob. It could be as simple as a cease and desist order, or it could be serious jail time for both breaking and entering and burglary. It's a tough call. I'd be lying if I pretended to know. Now, if the judge sees the nuances, the gray areas, I'd be hoping for the former. If the latter, I can make sure Zippers is cared for, if not by myself, by someone with a really good home. He's not on trial here, remember." "It's okay, buddy," said Zippers as he rubbed his cheek against Jacob's chin. "You're gonna win." "Hey, and cats never lie," Herschel added. And so Herschel called his last witness. "The defense wishes to call to the stand Mr. Jacob A. Felts." Jacob was sworn in and he took the stand. "Mr. Felts, would you like to tell the court in your own words your side of the story, keeping in mind that perjury laws can be even more severe than breaking and entering laws?" Hershey began, making it a point not to even hint at the burglary charges. I want this screen to show up better, so let's turn this light off. Now, buddy. Is that better? I don't know. Try that. No, it's the same. Oh, well. Sure. Well, I was hired some 15 years ago by the Annex. Let's see. I could use some light. That's the nickname most of us who work there called the place. I started in a pretty low position, but by means of a lot of reviews, which I initiated, I was eventually able to be promoted to research and development. Within the year of my 11th year there, I was on the top tier of research technicians in the main laboratory. I worked in a variety of assignments, from new blood thinning agents to heart medications to non-habit and safe pills for insomnia patients. It wasn't until my last 2 years, however, where I kind of started going solo soon after being asked to be part of the autism project. We'd only 4 others working on it at that time, but after a few months, I decided to work independent of the others. It had nothing to do with their personalities or their abilities. I just sensed that my way of working and theirs were like, apples and oranges. Their apples were never going to get my oranges, and vice versa. Herschel interrupted. If I'm not mistaken, you worked a lot of your own overtime back then, on your own dime even. I did at that. In my own way, whether I feared I was navel-gazing or not, I had this inner sense that I was actually getting somewhere. My friends would clock out and ask me if I wanted to join them for dinner or drinks, and 9 times out of 10, I told them I had work to catch up on. I knew they thought I was being antisocial, but I had to see where my hunches were leading me. I had to see if I was on the verge of cracking some important code or whatever. It felt that good. I felt that close. And did you crack the code on the autism project? No, I did not. Jacob paused, then continued. I mean, I wasn't allowed to continue because Dennis Fairbanks basically thought I was wasting my time, wasting the company's time, and that I was not being a team player. A whole list of things that simply wasn't true. But that's where Pepper comes in, Jacob continued. Pepper, Elise Tarpin's nickname. That's right, Elise, or Pepper as her friends called her, took over my position. She was basically handed all of my notes, including the ones I'd kept in a separate drawer from my more esoteric nighttime work. And what happened next? Well, like I said, I was demoted to a position in the pharmacy end of things, real basic stuff, and just typing, really. They reduced my salary, and it didn't take long before the work became kind of boring, repetitive, and tediously elementary. The excitement and challenge of research was gone. I was denigrated to a position quite similar to when I first started some 12 years earlier. I barely paid my rent. As for Pepper, it turns out she too preferred working pretty much to herself. She didn't put in extra hours, but the hours she did put in were soon reaping the benefits from my primitive notes. And unbeknownst to myself, management saw in her experiments amazing results, something I'd never had the good fortune to experience. Did the lab mice begin speaking? No, but slow reasoning mice and mice with a short sort of numbness to their surroundings began, for lack of a better phrase, loosening up. They practically began speeding through mazes they once only balked at or they ignored. The autistic mice, which is what we call them, were practically cured overnight. She kept perfecting my notes until everyone there was convinced the FDA should be called in to see if and when tests could be conducted on primate or even human subjects. According to Pepper, she was about to let me in on the good news just before we were simultaneously handed our pink slips. And so you were basically fired for finding the cure for severe autism. Objection! Sustained. Counsel, you have to leave such surmising to the jury. Your duty is to get the story, not the verdict. I'm very, very sorry, Your Honor. If it might please the court, I'll simply ask what Jacob thought the reason was for an unusual layoff splurge that appeared to involve almost anyone who even remotely were tied to the MW Out 101 project. Very well, the judge allowed, but keep your answer brief, young man. Well, started Jacob. At first I was, confused. I wasn't aware right away Pepper and the others were being let go. I really thought I was being singled out at first. And it wasn't until I ran into Pepper some days later at the unemployment office that we started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. That was when I thought that both of us had been metaphorically raped, robbed of our research, our findings. Others were now taking the credit for our discoveries. It was obvious to us that it had become something so much less about helping hurting people, but it had become everything about money, greed, power, ego. Herschel walked towards the chair where Sonny the bonobo was sitting. We already know about your break-ins on the Halloween night and the taking back of your notes and what had by then become a cooling tank of the formula which Pepper had perfected. What, Mr. Phelps, is your opinion of Sonny's contention that you are possibly just two disgruntled ex-employees who were bent on a mission of revenge? Jacob looked over at the dark, sad eyes of Sonny. Herschel, I can't and I don't blame him, nor anyone else for that matter, who chooses to believe we're lying and they're telling the truth. So far, I've seen a cat, a lowland gorilla, and now a bonobo benefit from the offshoot boon of this thing we've created. My cat Zippers will tell you he's thrilled people like Marie are being helped in such big ways, but he'll also tell you that something, in our opinions anyway, just as important is taking shape. The animal rights movement is going to explode like all other worthy rights movements have over the course of history. If people like Pepper and I'll say this despite the objections here, if we, as the true authors of this discovery, are allowed to have control over how the MWAUT 101 formula is channeled, sold, dispersed, I truly, sincerely believe it'll be better for autism patients and animals of all species in the long run. My fear is that corporate powers like Annex Systems institutions, like the insurance companies, will get a governorship with too much of the financial control so that both humans and other species will in the end suffer. They won't get proper care. Obviously, from a business standpoint, we want what is truly ours, despite the capitalist papers they made us sign when we started there. If they had played fair from the beginning, had been honest with us and shared the credit and profits, even if those profits were small on our end, we probably wouldn't be here today, I can assure you. So sure, Pepper and I chose the lower ground and did what we did in an attempt to set things, maybe not perfect, but more right. And yet, who really is lower when it comes to the moral ground of honesty here today? Who is lower? Herschel by now was in front of Jacob again. He looked over at Sonny one last time. I'm sorry you had to be dragged into all of this shit, Sonny. You're on the verge of saving your species. And we keep talking about who's the bigger thief here. We all should be ashamed and figure out a way to help everybody. Counsel, said the judge, perhaps save the speeches for your closing remarks. Right. I have no further questions. Now it was Anna Sternum's turn. Jacob, Zippers, Zippy, Annex Systems, the Annex. Everything seems to have a nickname in this circus, she smiled. I often call my cat several terms of endearment. Yes, one of them is... Oh, this is Jacob talking. I often call my cat several terms of endearment. Yes, one of them is Zip, like Zip It. Right. So, Jake, if I may call you that, see no reason why you can't. When you sign a 20-page contract with Annex Systems, not one of those pages ever refers to itself as the Annex, the likes of which many of the employees seem to prefer calling it. Am I correct? It's just a name like Coca-Cola's Coke. True. But with business contracts, what we sign is held accountable by law. There is no leeway for a buddy system here. The terms of endearment hopefully happen later, but not when you sign a binding contract. If those papers distinctly say that anything you may suggest, pitch, create, conduct research on, whether it's throwing jello at a wall or making baby steps towards a breakthrough joint effort on a disease, belongs to Annex Systems, then the legal contract you sign is quite clear, is it not? But I'm not the one who is suing here, Ms. Sternum. No, essentially you're not. We are. But if we are to understand what you just told the court, you are, in a way, countersuing should by some stretch of the imagination my client loses today. You say you want to claim what is yours to those greedy corporate and insurance companies, that they don't get their dirty, evil hands on it. If you were to get your way today, again by some stretch of our imaginations, you, Jacob, would become the one who changed the employer-employee relationship in America. Do you realize that? You'd be changing the law. You'd be turning our land into a socialist, Marxist-ruled nightmare our forefathers never dreamed of foisting upon us in the 21st century. And you, the non-greedy Jake Feltz of Burbank, California, would reap the profits by reneging on an agreement you accepted and approved when you cashed your first paycheck. A rather handsome one by many corporate standards, I might add, as you continued your vocation there those 14 or 15 years. And I'm going to close there because take the magic zipper glasses off, because I only have a little bit of memory left on this right now. So we'll close off in the middle of chapter 21 and continue very soon. And my goal is to finish zippers for those of you who would prefer having it read to you, like the little babies you are. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget to gargle.